Hi there, it's Dermot again, and I'm just going to continue with the 12 steps and continue from step 4. So step 4 is made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Right, just to introduce this, why continue from step 3? And people do ask that because, you've done step 1, you've admitted, you're powerless over your addiction, that your life had become unmanageable because of it. Step 2 and 3 is the steps of asking for help, the step of hope, and then taking that help. So you've done that much, you've handed over, you've asked for help. So why continue from step 3? What's the point of going any further, really? And I suppose the purpose of step 4 and what does it mean? We'll look at that too, and then how best to do this step and what is expected from me. Okay, made us searching and fearless. So what is searching? How deep and why? And really what it is, you want to go back and you want to leave your past behind you. So you need to go as far and as deep as you can. So it's going right back to your furthest memory, your furthest maybe trauma, your furthest fear, whatever it is that you can remember or even feel. And that is how deep and why you need to go. So everyone is different. Everyone has had a different life experience growing up. Different levels of maybe love, abuse, trauma. It's all depends. So it's going back to that and looking at not where you've come from, but just how have you been affected throughout your life. In that you do come across a lot of fears, and as you say, how do I face my fears? Well, the only way to face your fear is to face it head on, just to deal with it, to get on with it, to face it and, work through it. Ask for help by all means, but you can't run away from your fears because that's what we did in active addiction. How can I cope with my anxieties? Well, anxiety is just the fear of the future, so it's just by bringing everything back into the day, into the here and now. All you can do is deal with today. The future will come, it's out there, but it's not right here in the present. So there's no point in really getting too worked up or too worried about the future. You can plan for the future in a sense, you can set goals for yourself, but you're not there yet. So, it's important just to try and let it go if you can. Right, a moral inventory. And how do I measure my morals or my values? Well, morals are just what you know as being right or wrong. Different societies, different cultures have different morals, but I think as a human race, we all have similar morals. We know what's good and we know what's wrong. We've been taught that, our values, and yes, a lot of our values growing up are values of our parents, of our society. We pick them up, so they can be either good or bad. You just have to look at that. If you were brought up in a home, say, for example, that was very racist, you probably grew up to be a racist, but deep down that might not be you. So you have to reassess your values to that sense. Listening to your conscience, and that's just your soul, your inner voice. It's how you feel. It's what drives the guilt and the shame and all that. So you have to listen to where you're coming from. Listen to how you feel, what's right and what's wrong for you, not for anybody else, but just for yourself. It's not just a stock take, but a full-on audit. And how we mean here is, yes, you have to get down and deep and dig deep and really look at your life from A to Z, because the purpose of this, this step is to clear everything out, to clear out the baggage, so to say, of your life, and put it away. It's say taking recovery without a full step would be like carrying a bag full of stones. It'll always be there. It'll never go away. It'll never get lighter, only heavier. Of ourselves. And it's about focusing on yourself only. Yes, you might have been a victim of abuse, victim of circumstances, a victim of other people, bullied, you name it. That could have happened in your life. But this focuses on yourself because, once you start to blame and point fingers, and, it only just leads to a lack of responsibility. It's easy to say it's all their fault and it's the reason why I am, and that's the reason why my life turned out the way it did. Yes, as I say, circumstances do happen to people, consequences do happen, but, to blame or justify, will take away that ownership, and you need to own, you need to own your recovery. So you need to own what happened to you so that you have power over it and you can deal with it and you can let it go. Because if you don't, it'll always be out there and there'll always be somebody else who's driving that. Acknowledging abuse and trauma, of course it's happened. If it's happened to you, you do have to do it. And if it means getting more help for abuse and trauma, please, I advise you to do so. Right. Learning honesty. Being honest with yourself will break denial and delusional thinking. And what we're saying here is, you have to become honest with yourself because, you lived in a state of denial and delusion for a long time in active addiction. Addiction hides behind lies and secrets, and that's just what it does. So we have to become honest with ourselves. And when I say honest, it doesn't mean you have to say everything that pops into your head. It's about just what you feel, how you feel. Are you being true to yourself? That's the most important thing. Are you being true to yourself? It's not about other people, it's yourself. No pain, no gain. Truth hurts, and it does. The truth does hurt, but you know what? The truth sets you free, and that's what it does. So, running away from it's not going to help you. Sitting with it, as hard as it may be, as painful as it may be, will be so liberating in the long run. And releasing the guilt and shame, and that's what you want to do. That guilt and shame you feel inside you is inside you. It's not inside other people. So you want to get rid of that guilt and shame. So you have to face it, look at it for what it is, and then process it and let it go. And it will be a weight off your shoulders. You will feel it physically. You physically will feel lighter. You feel like you're walking on air if you do a proper or a good fourth step. And as you're going through the process of writing out your fourth step, you will start to feel a hell of a lot better. Right, eliminating the power. And release the power of the past, breaking that depression or that feeling of depression. And that's what we're doing. We're eliminating that power that's holding us back. It's like a big bungee cord that keeps pulling you back and pulling you back. You want to just cut that bungee cord and be free. So writing down our faults, as I say, becoming honest, and it does make you more humble of a person because you look at yourself in the sense that, it's okay to be broken, it's okay to have cracks, it's okay to be have faults, it's okay to make mistakes. It's not a sin, etc. Prepare to repair and let go, let God. So preparing to repair, the fifth step is, the actual kind of confession part of it, where you speak to a person, a sponsor, whoever you choose. But this is the preparation. This is getting ready to do all that. Learning humility. And, as you progress through this step, as you're doing it, as I say, there's no hurry to do it. It can take you as long as it takes you. You will start to see a change in your own outlook, in your own thinking. When I was drinking, I used to think that I was okay and it was everybody else was screwed up, not me. There was nothing wrong with me. As I progressed through the step, I started to realize, I'm as screwed up as everyone else and maybe even possibly worse. But, again, it's okay. It's nothing that I need to be embarrassed or ashamed about. That's just what happened. That's what addiction did. So it's an ego reality check. You want to get your ego checked there. You don't want to be thinking that you're better or worse than other people. So laying the groundwork. And this is for further step work. So, if you don't do a fourth and fifth step, in that sense, you can't really progress with the 12 steps. You'll just stay stuck, what we call dry drunk. That's what will happen because you'll just be hanging on by your fingernails. So, it is unhealthy to skip this step. And once you do this step and once you let go of the past, you won't go back there. Yes, you'll still have memories, but, it won't have the same emotional impact as it had before. And as I say, it's not a rush. It's not a race, it's a marathon. Right, so suggested ways to help to do a step 4. Well, it's to look at the powerful emotions, resentments and anger. They're probably the two biggest negative emotions that we carry in addiction and in life. Then comes the guilt and remorse and shame. So look at all the things that you feel guilty about, you feel remorseful about, you feel ashamed about. The fear and anxiety that you felt in your life. What were you afraid of? What are you still afraid of? What is it that you need to look at? Where is this fear coming from? Is it a physical fear, an emotional fear, a mental fear? Kind of look at all of that if you can. Get help with that if you need to. And then also looking at the nice side, the good side, the pride, the warmth, the love, the kindness, because we all have that inside of us. We're inherently good people. Just we are molded by society. If you look at a baby that's first born, it's just a pure bundle of joy. It's pure love, and that's we are born as pure love. But unfortunately, life molds us into different ways. So we have that within us. That unconditional love is there. That warmth, that kindness is there. So we have to kind of focus on that as well, because we didn't look at that in active addiction. We only saw the dark side, the bad side, but there's always a light side too. Okay, just to sum up the 4th step, taking an honest account of our lives, and that's what we're doing. Facing our fears, taking stock of our addiction and our lives in addiction, and being responsible for the consequences. So yes, the consequences of our addiction, taking the ownership of that, being sorry and doing what we need to do for that. And then self-forgiveness, and that's very important as well, to be ready to forgive yourself, because if you can't forgive yourself, then you're really going to be stuck. So you have to keep working at it until you do. All right, thanks very much. I'll see you at the next step.